Hi everyone. In this lecture, I will implement a microservice to create an API to query the Elasticsearch. So I need to create the required components to do this job. And here I will start with an elasticqueryclient module that will be used from the elasticquery microservice. Alright, so let's add a new module called elasticqueryclient. First, I will add the dependencies to the pom.xml file. I will add app.config data and then elasticconfig dependency. We need to add elasticconfig to the main pom.xml file with version. Finally, let's also add elastic model dependency here. Then let's create a util package and then create a class elasticqueryutil. I will mark this class with component annotation to make it a Spring managed bean. I will add a generic type here. T extends index model. Then I will add three methods. First one is get search query by ID. I will use native search query builder class for this method and sets only ID using with IDs method. And then build and return. For the second method, get search query by field text. I will use with query method and provide the Elasticsearch bool query using builder pattern. Here we use must methods and use match query type to pass the text, as you see. Finally, get search query for all methods will use a bool query again. With must keywords, but this time we will use match all query method on query builders class. Let's now create a package called service. And then create elasticqueryclient interface. With generic type T that extends index model. I will add three methods here. Get index model by ID, get index model by text, and get all index model. As you see, for the return type, I use the generic type T for all of the three methods here. I can then implement this interface by creating Twitter Elastic Query Client class. I will use service annotation here to make it a Spring bean and replace the generic type T with Twitter index model. At this point, I will need some new configurations. So let's go to app-config data module and create elastic query config data class. Here I will add a single property text field. I also need to add this to config properties in the config server repository. So let's create a new config file there for Elastic Query Service. And add a prefix Elastic Query Config. Here I will add the text fields property with value text. Let's also add Elastic Config and server port definitions here, as we will need them. I will set the port as 8183 because we have used 8181 and 8182 for the previous services. Note that this YAML file will be the config file of the next microservice that we will develop in the next lecture. Now in the Twitter Elastic Query Client class, I will define a log variable to use in the logging. And then I will inject 4 fields using constructor injection. Elastic config data, Elastic query config data, Elasticsearch operations, and Elastic query util with a generic type Twitter index model. Now I can implement the 3 overwritten methods. For getIndexModel method, I will simply call Elastic query util getSearchById method and use the returned query to call Elasticsearch operations search1 method. Also, I will set the model class name and index name using the index coordinates of method. I will pass the index name to this index coordinates of method. This search1 method will return a search hit object that has Twitter index model as the generic type. This result can return null. So let's check this and throw runtime exception in case no document found. It is better to create a specific application exception class here, as we did previously. So let's create a class called elasticqueryclient exception in the exception package. And then I will add 3 basic constructors here in this exception class. One without parameter, one with string parameter, and one with string and throwable parameters. Then I can throw this class instead of the raw runtime exception in the getIndexModel method. Now I will log an error message in case search result is null. Then I will log an info message before returning from this method. I will call getID method on search result object to get the ID and print in the information log. Then I will call the getContent method on the search result object and return the Twitter index model as a response. For query by text, I will call getSearchQueryByFieldText methods of Elastic Query util. And then call the Elasticsearch operations search method. Again, I will pass query index model class and the index name as parameter to the search method here. I will use index coordinates of methods to pass the index name. I will log an info message here. This time it will return a search hits object, which is a collection. So I need to get stream by calling the get method here. Then I will map the result to a list of Twitter index model. Get all index models is similar to the previous one. The only difference is that I don't specify a query text and return all the data from Elasticsearch index. Here again I will call the search query and pass query Twitter index model class and the index name using index coordinates of methods. Then I will log an info message and map the search result object by using the getContent method of the search hit class and collect the results to a list of Twitter index model. Actually, I can refactor this code and use a common method to call Elasticsearch operations search method and then log the message. So let's create a method called search that takes a query, log message, and log parameters. And then I will do the search here and then log the message. Then I can call these methods from getIndexModel by text and getAllIndexModels methods. Great! In the next lecture, I will implement Elasticsearch repository for Elastic Client. So I will see you in the next lecture.